Hello again. Welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. Email, come to Offstars if you have questions, but it looks like things are going well. Make sure to do the forum. And then also this week, I posted the editor profile and analysis presentation video. So this is the project that's going to be separate from the normal editing you're doing. It's the analysis. Normally, this would be a PowerPoint you do to us for us in class, but because of this, you're going to make some kind of a video with your analysis and presentation and send a link to all of us, and we'll all watch it. So this week, I'm going to do like a kind of demo version, so you know what I'm looking for. And I've posted on Moodle the project assignment, even though it's not due for a while. You need to pick a film that you're interested in because of the editing. And then I want you to research the editor. So you may need to, if you can't find anything on the editor of some film you're interested in, then you need to pick a different film. So you need to pick a film you're interested in, but that you can also find some information on the editor. Beyond Wikipedia and IMDb. That's a fine place to start, to list some stuff, but you need at least one other source. For me this week, I've got a book by this particular editor. If you can find an interview online or a couple things like that, that would be fine. But I want you to have at least one like firsthand source of the editor talking about what they do. Ideally, talking about maybe the movie you're analyzing. Okay, so now I'm going to do my demo. Mine will certainly be longer than what you do. So don't think you need to be as long as I'm going to go. I'm always talking too long. But yours should be better in terms of appearance, right? You've got extra time, make some slides, photos, graphics. I'm going to do some of that. But I want you, you can exploit that better than I'm going to be doing here. Mine's just basically my lecture that I'm going to present to you and show some clips. If you have any questions, of course, email me about it. Okay, so here we go. Editor profile and scene analysis. I am talking about an editor named Sam Osteen. He lived from 1923 to 2000. He was an editor from the late 50s through the late 90s, so like a long time. His heyday was in the 60s and 70s, and you probably know him from the movies he edited for Mike Nichols, such as The Graduate, Carnal Knowledge, Working Girl, like everything with Mike Nichols, basically. Catch 22. And you probably know him from the Roman Polanski movies he did, which were like Rosemary's Baby, Chinatown, and a number of others. He did a ton of other movies in addition to those, but those are the ones he's most well known for. So now, brief bio. Sam was born in Arkansas, but he grew up in Burbank, California. And he was into movies from a young age. Particularly, he was interested in editing. He would sneak onto the back lots, sort of like the stories like Steven Spielberg. You hear about this. And eventually, he got into the editorial department. There was a building where all the movies were edited, where all the editors were, and he got in there. And eventually, that led to an assistant editor position in 1955. And so, for about 8 to 10 years, he was an assistant editor on some really interesting films. Most importantly, he was an assistant editor on The Wrong Man, an Alfred Hitchcock film. And that was influential, working with Hitchcock as an assistant editor. He got his first lead editor position in 1964, editing a not great movie, but with big stars, called Robin and the Seven Hoods, which starred, if you haven't seen it, Frank Sinatra and everybody in the Rat Pack. It was one of those Rat Pack Frank Sinatra movies in the 60s that were don't age all that well, but are really fun and kooky to rewatch. And anyway, he started there, and he had I guess, a reasonably good relationship with Frank Sinatra because he in coming years would edit a film directed by Frank Sinatra. So it was like almost 10 years before he got that lead editing position. So he was an assistant for quite a long time, learning the ropes, learning how everything was done, getting experience. And then the big break that changed his career trajectory was in 1966. He edited Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf for Mike Nichols. And Mike Nichols, that was Mike Nichols' first film. Mike Nichols came up through like sketch comedy and the stage. He was like hotshot Broadway theater director, not unlike sort of Orson Welles pre-Citizen Kane. He was a big deal, but he didn't really know how to direct a movie. And Osteen was very, very experienced and older, and he and Nichols found a really great partnership, and particularly in the beginning, in the first couple of films, where Nichols was figuring things out, and Osteen would actually be on set, sort of helping him make sure he was getting the coverage he would need in the edit. And the relationship developed, and he then edited the Mike Nichols' next film, which was in '67, and that's The Graduate. All right, and that's the big moment. And today we're going to be looking at a scene from The Graduate. He then continued, he went on and I think basically edited every Mike Nichols film to almost the end. So all the way through the '70s, he's doing Mike Nichols stuff. In the '80s, Silkwood, Working Girl, all the way up like Wolf, if you remember that one with Jack Nicholson. He was working with Mike Nichols. Now, in '67, he does The Graduate. The following year, he works with Roman Polanski in 1968 and edits Rosemary's Baby, another super influential, important film from that moment when Hollywood is sort of shifting from the old traditional ways to the new ways. And that relationship went very well as also. And Osteen then edited Chinatown in '74 and kept working with Polanski into the '80s, even when Polanski couldn't return to the United States. Sam Osteen edited for other people along the way. Cool Hand Luke is a great Paul Newman movie that he edited in between there in the late '60s. And he kept editing up through the '90s. There were a few places in there where he dabbled in directing a little bit, but editing was really his thing. He died in 2000, and shortly after that, his wife put out a book called Cut to the Chase, which is it's basically a dialogue with Sam Osteen before he died, talking about the stories and what the experiences were like. And it's a good book if you're interested in editing. This is a nice one to pick up. Cut to the Chase: 45 Years of Editing America's Favorite Movies. And it's Bobby Osteen is the author, who's his wife. And in here, he talks about all those films, and he, in particular, talks about The Graduate and some scenes a scene we're going to look at today. Okay, that was the bio portion of the assignment. Now, style and strengths. So I think for Osteen, his style and strengths are he's like this combination of traditional, invisible, seamless editing, the traditional style where it's just seamless. You're not meant to notice it. If you notice a cut, it's a bad cut, which is what he came up in. But then he transitions through to the new wave influence of, the late '60s Hollywood, where we're making jump cuts and match cuts and doing these jarring things to draw attention to, things that are, edits we're making. But I think the style and the interesting thing about Osteen is he sort of merges those two. So he's doing new wave, cutting edge, sort of jarring stylistic things, but his training as a traditional editor allows him to kind of do this stuff in such a smooth and seamless way that it doesn't sort of smack you around in the same way, that like Godard does, or like Dennis Hopper does in Easy Rider, or in the clip we saw with the Elvis song and the girl running away, if you remember that. So that's what I think is interesting about his style. I mean, he can cut a scene seamlessly, beautifully, like so that you don't even notice anything's there, and we're hitting every beat, and it's. But he can also do some kind of a jarring, shocking montage, or do some smash cut with like really symbolic meaning. But his ability to do that and meld these two, I think, is what makes him unique. Okay, now summary of the film we're going to watch, and I'm just going to summarize it up to the scene we're going to watch. So we're going to see a clip from The Graduate, and if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. But let me summarize up to this point. So Dustin Hoffman plays Ben, and Ben just graduated college out east, and now he's going back home to Southern California. And he's coming back and having a party and to a hero's, welcome. And now he's done all these great things in college, and he's gonna, go make his fortune, and his family has expectations of him now taking that education and going and getting into business or law or whatever it is he's going to do, and taking on the world and going for it. And Ben isn't ready to do that. And so he finds himself sort of stuck in a rut at his parents' house, confused as to what he's supposed to do at this point, and not comfortable with the expectations placed on him, and not comfortable with the world around him, his parents' world, and not really excited about joining that world. And as a sort of act of rebellion and a sort of way to reject the society and do something, sort of naughty and dangerous, he has an affair with Mrs. Robinson, who's an older woman and a friend of his parents, and looks an awful lot like his mom at times, which is a little weird. So we're going to watch the famous montage sequence from The Graduate that is doing a great job as a typical Hollywood montage, where it's condensing time. So it's condensing the duration of their affair. So let's take a look at that.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share. No one dared disturb the sound of silence. Fool, said I, you do not know, silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you, take my arms that I might reach you, but my words like silent raindrops fell from the wells of silence, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, and the sign flashed out its warning in the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls, the tenement halls, whispered sounds of silence. When streams are ripe and swelled with rain, May she will stay, resting in my arms again. June, she'll change her tune. In restless walk she'll prowl the night. July she will fly and give no warning to her flight. August, die she must. The autumn winds blow chilly and cold. September I'll remember. A love once new has now grown old.
Ben, what are you doing?
Well, I would say that I'm just drifting here in the pool.
Why?